Hello there, my name is Martin Henley. This is the Effective Marketing Content Extravaganza. And if you are new here, you won't yet know that I'm on a mission to give you everything you need to be successful in your business, providing, of course, what you need to be successful in your business is to know more about and be implementing more efficiently, effectively, and enthusiastically sales and marketing in your business, which is, of course, what you need. You need more customers. More importantly, you need more customers profitably. That will give you the nicer car, the nicer holidays, the nicer house, the nicer retirement, the bigger investment fund, all of those things that you deserve if you are running your own business or you are busy framing a marketing career for yourself. So what goes on here is I'm here giving you everything I know about sales and marketing. I pull in anyone I can find with experience of sales and marketing to share their experience with you. We look at the very best and the very worst of marketing content on the internet, and every other Wednesday we bring in Melanie, the concierge of co-creation at Crazy Might Work, and we speculate wildly about what the marketing news might mean for you in your marketing business, in your marketing life, in your marketing career. So if all of that sounds like it might be interesting or useful, take a second to like, share, subscribe, comment, get involved, because that will give us the motivation to continue on this epic journey to provide you with everything you need to be more successful in your business. Today is Wednesday, which means it's marketing news, which means the concierge of co-creation at Crazy Might Work is with us. It's Melanie Farmer. Good afternoon, Melanie Farmer.
Excited to be here. I'm very excited. Look at all this stuff that I'm gonna pick your brains. That's why I'm here.
Okay, super cool. You are very welcome to do that. So we start with a boast, don't we? So what is your boast? Do you have a boast from the last couple of weeks? Something that you've achieved that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, well, we're pretty happy to have just started running leadership programs face to face. It's been 2 years. But the other thing is we just got our highest success rate on an email campaign, which we're pretty happy about, which was 46%. So that was well above the sector. So we're kind of happy with that outcome. And onward and upward, yeah.
Excellent. Well, that sounds like a win. Didn't you just tell me also that you've already completely sold out your first course of next year, half sold out the second course? I think that's a win, isn't it?
Yeah. That's the result of that that high click rate because we got some sales out of that, and I mean it's just nice to be a bit more, booking stuff well ahead of it happening.
Excellent.
That's
Yeah,
got to be good.
that's got to be good. That's always
It's
good when
relaxing.
you know.
You go to Christmas and you go, let's have a break, and we'll all just sort of look at the sunset on the beach and all that. In the nice comfort. I mean, we're very privileged and all of that, but to be able to enjoy knowing that you must be doing something right.
Yes,
It's
you
coming.
must be doing something right. Good. Yeah, I think you're doing plenty right there at Crazy Might Work. That's what I think. Here's my boast. Are you ready for my boast? This is my boast. You see this? This is my recommendation for anyone who uses a desk type microphone. This 11 centimeters has changed my life. This extension here, the silver piece, because
Oh
now I can
yeah.
put the microphone actually where I want it. Whereas previously it was right on the joint here and it was never in the right place. And then the other thing, my other recommendation, these people aren't sponsoring us, is a little bit of WD-40 because you'll notice it ain't squeaking anymore.
Woo!
So I
Has
have a
someone
squeak-free microphone that sits exactly where I want it to sit. So that's my boast. That's what I've achieved in the last 2 weeks. Good, good. But we're not here to...
Martin,
But,
I've been waiting for you to get this set up right so that I can just copy it. So I think the
okay,
time's right now. I need to get exactly what you've got there by way of a setup.
I can give you exactly what I've got here. And you're right, it has taken me 2 years to put this together. And you were right to wait so that it was exactly right before you got involved. I can give you exactly the specification. It will save you hundreds of hours.
Yeah,
But what I've
exactly.
realised is I actually prefer investing in this than I do actually producing the content. I've spent much more time investing in like my little desktop studio type situation than I have actually producing content. It's good. It's good fun. Okay, but we're not here to talk about my desktop studio. We're not here to talk about your fantastic marketing that you're doing at Crazy Might Work. We're here to talk about the news. So, what has caught your attention, Melanie Farmer, in the last couple of weeks in the way of news?
Yeah, little things that we're coming towards the end of the year, so there's going to be a bit of that sort of stuff, watching what's going on in that regard. But I'm noticing that Canva, which many listeners would know of, is now getting involved with AI copywriting. So you can now hire an AI copywriting assistant by just putting in a few keywords on Canva and it writes your articles for you. So I've got mixed feelings about that.
Okay.
I'm noticing, the second one is Snapchat and Adidas. So this was from a few days ago. They've now created the first buyable Bitmoji. So you can buy Adidas fashion using Snap tokens. So it's interesting because it's currency that's not currency. It's officially worth 0.000870 cents, apparently. And then the third one is Tasmania, which is an island off the south coast of Australia, part of Australia. They're a clever campaign, I think, for the summer holidays, which it will be, of course, in Australia very shortly, and how they have sort of switched up their marketing of what holidays should be, and the idea that they should be a time when you do nothing at all, as opposed to run around and try and have a high pressured good time with your kids, and really all you want to do is sleep. So they have done a really interesting campaign, which I like because I think tourism is growing. That got my eye.
Excellent. Okay, so if I were to theme your suggestions for this week, we've got digital content creation, digital products, digital detox. That's the way it looks for
Yes,
me. Is
nice.
that is that the way we're
Totally.
going? Okay, super cool.
Yeah,
I've only bought one story this week because it's the Marketing Week year in review, and the
yeah.
headline that Marketing Week have given us is 2022 Marketing Year in Review. It's been a bad year for ... So this is basically the things that have gone wrong in 2022. And it's heartening me because we've spoken about all of these things across the year. So it feels to me like we're doing like a proper journalism type thing here with the marketing. Like if we're talking at
Yeah.
least about the same things that Marketing Week are talking about, then we must be somewhere in the right area, mustn't we? We must be doing it right. And we're only making this up as we go along.
I hope they mention that how Facebook was it? No, is it Facebook haven't got legs? Anyway, let's see what have they got? What do they reckon has
Okay,
gone
well,
badly?
what we will do is we'll do all of your stories and then we'll do my story. So that's the
Oh,
way we'll do it. So we'll kind of do all of your stories and then we'll do the year in review, and we'll see how close to the mark we've been. And in
yeah,
terms
yeah,
of
nice one.
actual teams of people paid to actually produce marketing news, as opposed to you and I coming together every other Tuesday, and making
Chatting
it
about
up.
what's
Okay, so super cool. So tell us about this Canva AI content situation. I've got a
yeah,
comment to make before we start. I've pulled up
go
the
on.
link you've given me. This is from Marketing Mag, the Australian version, .com.au. This
Yes.
content clearly isn't working. Why have they got this text image behind this headline? Canva joins the bandwagon with AI copywriting assistance. Like, you can see that's not working, can't you? They've put a text image behind
Yeah.
the text. Now, I've read this
And
story
it
already,
looks
so I
nothing.
know where it's going to go. But you tell us what's going on, Melanie Farmer.
I wonder if I can share screen because it doesn't look at all like that for me.
Oh, does
But
it
that
not?
might throw. Yeah, no, I can see the whole thing. So
Okay.
yeah, who knows? But basically, they're just signaling the rise of AI copywriting, and Canva, which of course is really your land of templates for many things, marketing and all of that. They've launched this thing called Magic Write, which is AI copywriting bots, and they basically write whatever article that you want in beta. So you can have a little play and whatever. Um, it's only recent, it's like a few days ago that they've kind of done this, and it is worrying for me because I think what does this mean for the writing industry? Does it mean that AI is trying to take over, and can you trust this? I mean, I'm not happy at all about it. I'll be honest, but I can see that it would be a nice way to be fairly lazy and save a lot of money because you're not paying people to actually write things. Yeah, so that's my take on that. I think it's just a sad. And I just wonder how well it is going to serve the reader. That's the truth of it. Um,
Yes.
you know, and then I always think, is that adding value to the reader if you've got a bot doing it? I mean, in some ways, the bot might go and scrape the internet and find, trends, but is it actually going to be groundbreaking? Is it actually going to be the thought leadership you're looking for? I don't know. That's what I worry about the reader, and also that not understanding that a human hasn't written this, because it's not like it's going to have a badge saying this was written by a bot, because someone might have edited it for 2 minutes and before they published it. There you go. That's me. Not happy with Canva. I
Okay,
can
not
see why
happy
they
with.
I can see why they did it, but yeah.
Yeah, you can see why they've done it. And the thing is, this is kind of the history of Canva, isn't it? This is what Canva has always been about: is short-circuiting the design process historically, so they can give you design templates so things can look good. And I think that was kind of useful for small businesses, for people who can't afford designers necessarily. I can see how that's really useful and really cost effective, and really worked apart from anything else. I've got issues with artificial intelligence, and because I don't think there is such thing as artificial intelligence. It's like astroturf, it's artificial grass, it's not grass. It's like virtual, means it's not real. Do you know what I mean? It's not real, all of this stuff. But this year, and especially in the last couple of months, what the AI that I'm experiencing is blowing my tiny mind a little bit. Like, I don't know if you've seen these graphics things where you just put in a sentence and it produces an amazing image. They're now doing it with profile pictures. Like, people are going crazy with these things, putting up profile pictures. So I am really worried about this right now. A friend of mine on LinkedIn, he's a successful guy, he's a very successful guy, but he's openly testing these things and saying, like, I used an AI to produce this social media post, which I think is like AI copywriting, which I think is really weird, because why would you admit? I mean, probably the only way to do it is to admit, like, I'm using an AI to do this, because otherwise, if you get busted, that's not a good look ever. But why would you admit that a computer can produce, like, surely the point of having copy, or part of the point, is to establish your expertise. Do you know what I mean? And then just to say, actually, a computer in 30 seconds is cleverer than me with my 30 years experience in this market. Surely the point would be to be in the market saying, actually, I'm really clever. That's why you should use me. Do you know what I mean? I'm really invested in this thing. I've really researched this thing. I'm really in this thing. And what I'm thinking about is, because I'm going to write a book in the next 12 months. That's my new mission. And then if I was to use one of these things and say, okay, this is the topic, and then it produced me several thousand words, and then I edit it and make it, that surely is going to be a short circuit to writing this book. Maybe the book will be better. Maybe the book will go deeper because I have this assistance in the writing from AI. I don't know. I am actually at this point torn. I don't think it's a good look to be coming out and saying, AI wrote this post for me. What the world doesn't need is more content at this point. Do you know what I mean? It's like, really, or certainly more poor content. What the world needs is more really good content, I think. And the thing I
You
think,
know
what
what?
you're saying about the copy industry, this is my last point, is the sun has been shining. Do you know what I mean? For the last 15 years for copywriters. This will go down as the most productive, profitable time for copywriters. Like Google says, you need content, and copywriters have been rammed for the last 15, 20 years, So I kind of feel like I'm always saying to people, make hay while the sun shines. The sun has been shining for copywriters. Maybe this is the death knell for them. I don't know. I'm kind of torn. The thing is, AI is achieving stuff that's really interesting and useful now, all of a sudden, in like the last 2, 3 months, and it hadn't been before.
Of course, the plus side of it is it can scrape the internet, which a person would struggle to have the same, time and whatever access to be able
Yes.
to pull that. So I could actually see copywriters using it honestly, and then making it their own. So they could be a lot cheaper to hire an actual copywriter in the end. So I look at with the templates and so forth. I use those all the time in PowerPoint, Vengage, and all these other platforms which offer up marketing templates. And so I think as a customer, I like something that's well designed in terms of look and feel, and it makes me more likely to consume the message of that company's, their brand and so forth, if they look a bit more professional. And so then in that way, it adds value to me when they've got this way of achieving a professional look through templates. Also, if you're landing a plane, it's not an embarrassment to say autopilot landed the plane today, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, it's almost a brag about British Airways to say, look at us, we can land a plane with, this incredible tech. It doesn't even need me. But there's a place for AI to say where it's clever. Whereas with this, I wonder about the value to the customer in the end, and how and like you, I think, well, if it does scrape the internet and find like everything about this subject, then maybe it's going to bring that together. But I'd love to see what copywriters think of it. Are they going to use it themselves to get a first draft knocked out in 2 seconds? That could be quite interesting if that's where their market is, ironically. Because I know designers will go to Canva and they'll do a graphic design inspired by something they've got off Canva.
Yeah, I think 100%. And I suppose this is what the technologists will tell you: is it's not like the technology is the mechanism, it's not the outcome. Do you know what I mean? So technology is the opportunity. So 100%, if a copywriter goes to this and says, like, I've got time and energy, I'm going to invest in making the very best copy that I possibly can with the assistance of this tool, that's one thing. And if, as opposed to the copywriter that goes to this and says, well, this would normally take me an hour, I can get it done in a minute and throw it out to my customers, and they're not going to know the difference, then that's a different thing. So yeah, I suppose it's a catch-22, but I am at this point actually quite worried about this whole thing of artificial intelligence, because I think, and what do I think? I think it's really scary. I think we're getting to a world where if the computer says no, you are basically screwed, because there is nowhere else to go to. And all the time artificial intelligence was looking a little bit sketchy, I was much less concerned. Now it's starting to look much more useful, because for me that's the issue, is where the authority goes. It's like the computer knows better than you do, then we're all in trouble. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't think computers do know better than we do, because at the base layer it was an idiot coder who put this thing together who didn't really have a great grasp on reality. That's what I kind of think. But
the computer is not making values-based decisions about, aligned with your company's values and what. So values is not something that it particularly is filtering for. Saying that, I do know a company who does sentiment analysis, so they do look at values. Interesting, but still, in general, I don't think a computer's going, well, ethically, I'm not going to report against that. It's sort of like, this is it.
The thing is, here's my actual take on it, and I need to be thinking about, I'm going to do this in my new Thinking Out Loud series. Like, artificial intelligence is like, what is intelligence? So what are computers good at? Computers are good at data, really good at data. So you can take all the knowledge in the world and a computer can make sense of it for you, maybe. But that's not what intelligence is. So intelligence is data and emotion and experience and compassion and all of these things that computers couldn't ever possibly do. So they can put the pixels in the right place to make a really stunning piece of art. We're seeing that now. They can put the words in the right place to make an interesting, useful piece of copy. But what they can't do is make a decision. They can't make a decision based on anything other than data. So more people responded to this. Okay, that's interesting data. But actually, like we were talking about 2 weeks ago, what about the 11 million people who aren't in a position to keep up with the technology? Do you know what I mean? Those people get lost. So I am, like, in my life, a little bit concerned, and for family members who are younger than me who are following through, a little bit concerned for where all of this is going. But I can also see if you are still going to invest energy and enthusiasm and insight, then this could be a really useful tool to kind of drive you further forward quicker, So I don't know. I don't know.
Mm. I wonder if I could write a bestseller through it. Now I want to just see what happens. That'd be
Yeah,
hilarious.
you could, and people will. I mean, this is now Canva are probably the biggest name that have done this, but I've looked at some of these content generating tools. You literally put in a sentence, it gives you the next 500 words. So it's useful. It needs an edit. Like, we'll probably be able to see the really lazy people because they won't be giving it the edit. But it's like my little mission I've been on with these transcriptions. I've been through all the tools. Now I've found one that is, it's not 100%, but it doesn't need an edit for it to be published. You know what I mean? It's like, that's where it's got to. And that's been going on for the last 6 months that I've been transcribing things. So interesting story, Melanie Farmer. Are we scared of entering the world of the robots? It feels like we are. And the thing is, like 100%, the world does not need more content at this point. Everything that needs to have been written has been written at this point. We've been producing content to satisfy Google. Like, copywriters have made a lot of money for the last 15, 20 years because Google has been consuming all of this content. But Google's already come out and said it doesn't like AI generated content. So is this going to serve the purpose of that? Are they going to be able to identify what is, so the purpose of content always attract Google and engage the user, the reader. Like, so if this AI generated content, if Google can find a way to identify it, I mean, what about duplicate content? I mean, it's like, it's a whole can of worms. It's interesting. We'll have to watch this. I think we'll be talking about this more next year.
Yeah. Should we move on to digital products?
Let's go on to digital products. I feel like we're going to have the same kind of conversation again. So this is your second story. Snapchat and Adidas announce first ever buyable Bitmoji fashion drop. Not their first ever fashion drop, but the first buyable Bitmoji fashion drop. What's going on, Melanie Farmer?
Well, I think this is interesting because you can use Snap tokens from Snapchat as a currency. I think that's kind of interesting that you can buy this Adidas jacket using Snap tokens. So Snapchat declares that Snapchat tokens are not worth anything. Like, you can't sell them. You can gift them to people, and then people can use those tokens to buy stuff. But the things you buy are virtual; they're not real things. I don't feel super happy about it because I think it's another way not to live in the real world, and I don't think it's super healthy for anyone to kind of find yet another way not to leave the virtual world and go into the real world and whatever. But yeah, it's just an interesting partnership. Adidas, as you see there, Adidas are probably one of the first and fashion brands to fully embrace the metaverse and get kind of involved. They've been in it, doing stuff with the World Cup and all that sort of thing. But I think this is the first time they've partnered with someone like Snapchat, where and that's just interesting because that platform is fairly young in itself. But to think of this being this currency, so you're now buying clothes with a weird currency online that don't exist you're not in the real world anyway. So, I just wonder if this is just another way not to exist. I don't like that.
We
Like,
don't like that, do we? We're so old-fashioned, us people who like the real world. What do I think about this? It makes perfect sense to me that if you are like fashion conscious, like if you're brand conscious, if you want to be wearing brands, then of course you want your avatar in the metaverse or wherever it is to be wearing these brands. So it kind of makes sense. The difference here is they, as I understand it, they had a drop for the World Cup, but that was free. Now this is the first time you can actually buy it with these snap coins, whatever they're called. And the thing is, it kind of just exposes what fashion is, which is just having that logo. And the first thing I thought about how easy would it be to counterfeit this, because people will counterfeit this. How easy is it to do that? And I don't know. I think, clever of Adidas, if people aren't actually going to be dressing themselves, if they're not going to be presenting in the real world, they're not going to need actual branded clothing in the real world. They're going to need branding clothing in the pretend world of the metaverse. So I think maybe these fashion brands do need to be thinking about this. People aren't actually going to need to be wearing clothes in the future. Nobody's going to see the clothes that they're going to be wearing.
I mean, yeah, I think it is interesting to see how, like, in the real fashion world, there is scarcity, so there's not an unlimited number. So I do wonder how that plays out. Like, they have to buy it, but like, is that jacket can be available forever, unlimited, and can you just like at any time, or are they going to turn it off so like you can only have it for a certain amount of time, or there's only a certain number of them? Because I think that's
Yeah.
an interesting direction for them to go in, is to create scarcity, so it's not like available for every person. It's that we've got 1,000 of these, and when they run out, they run out. Because it's in the digital world, you're like, what do you mean you've run out?
Yeah, well,
So
this
I
is the
do wonder.
NFT proposition, isn't it? The NFT
Right.
proposition is that you are producing unique things. So there is probably this one will be available to the masses for 0.00000 something of a penny. But
Mm,
somebody really rich and famous is going to turn up with the unique one that will never be replicated, which is worth $10 million or something stupid. Do you know what I mean?
right.
So
Yeah.
the thing is, they're taking these um, they are taking these principles into the digital world: scarcity, rarity, brand, and it will be interesting to see how successfully they can do it. I mean, I can't imagine a point in my life, if there is a point in my life, where I appear somewhere in a metaverse looking like this with branded jacket and shoes. Will you just please come around my house and put a bullet in my head, because my life has not become worth living anymore. But I can imagine that there are lots of young people who really care about the way their avatars look, unfortunately. And so, of course, these brands are going to make money from that. Of course, they're going to leverage that. Of course, they are.
Mm, yes. So there's that. And then my last little story was digital
Okay,
detox, she
that was
called it.
the worst segue we've ever had on this on this
Well, it's the
show.
opposite. It's like, get the hell out of there because it's making me feel things.
Okay, good.
Um,
All right, so we will get out of the way, out of there. We won't say another word about it. Okay, good. So your third story: Tourism Tasmania's lazy summer campaign.
yeah, I just like this campaign, and I actually think it's a smart. It's on point because we've all had 2 years where we've become deeply fatigued and we've had it, and the pressure of trying to have Christmas, which was cancelled twice because of border closures and whatever. So it's been a hell of a time. And I think Tasmanian tourism have actually got the right tone here because they say, look at this, get your step count down, do some hardcore pondering. Firm plans are no match for soft grass. And then there's this ad campaign they've got with this woman, and there's this incredible view, which is what you get in Tasmania, this unbridled happiness of these views of wilderness and what. And they're saying she's just sleeping with that in the background, saying, "Oh, I've seen one view, seen them all," because she's basically what they're saying is a successful holiday is one where you do nothing at all. You don't care, you do nothing, and come to Tasmania where there's amazing food, amazing views, you're in the wilderness, but you don't have to do anything at all. You can just breathe.
You don't even need
Come
to
here.
look at the view.
No. You've got your breathtaking view of this wilderness walk that you don't have to bother taking. Just go to bed.
Yes.
And I like, it's kind of like, oh, that sounds amazing. I don't have to, because if you go to Tasmania, you do feel like you've got to go hiking. It's like going to Machu Picchu or something. So I think they really hit that sweet spot of the the families trying to plan holidays, and after 2 years of failed attempts, we sort of lost the will to live with it. And they're like, listen, come to Tasmania and do nothing at all. Don't hike. Don't enjoy the views. Just breathe. Sleep. And so
Yes.
you just see a lot of families going, yes, I want to go to Tasmania and do nothing at all.
Yes. Live life to the fullest, they say. Seize the day. But Kate's parasympathetic nervous system disagrees. The air is sweet. She hasn't checked her phone all morning, and she reckons if you've seen one view, You've seen them all. The breathy voiceover narrates. Shall we
Right.
have a watch of the little video? See this? This is like a real. This is almost like a meditation.
Yeah.
Live life to the fullest, they say. Seize the day. But Kate's parasympathetic nervous system disagrees. The air is sweet. She hasn't checked her phone all morning. And she reckons if you've seen one view, you've seen them all.
Good. My only criticism would be it does look like she's dead for the first 8 seconds that we're looking at her face until she breathes. So that would be my only criticism. Here,
Could she like done a stretch out? Had a
she could have
duvet or
just done a
something.
stretch, yeah. And it doesn't need to be like she's actually neglecting her kids because she is in the wilderness. So if her
Yeah, and
kids are
they're like,
calling, it
"Oh, Mum,
probably is
can we
worth
go?"
opening your eyes. Mum, I'm in a ravine.
Enjoy
So
yourself, honey. I've got a teddy bear.
yes. So here's my prediction for 2023. I think we're going to see a lot of this. I think we're going to see well, firstly, what occurs to me when I look at this story is this goes back to a time when you Antipodean lot, you and the Kiwis, the Australians and the Kiwis, were really good at this marketing thing, at kind of inverting the message and coming up with something more interesting and more interesting. Do you know what I mean? And engaging. So I welcome that if that's coming back. But I think this is what's going to go on. I think there is going to be some kind of pushback in the next year or so on this whole digital thing, do more, be more, blah, 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 blah. I think that's what's going on. And I said to you, my first thinking out loud is going to be about objectives. Like, I think the objectives, I was thinking of Greta Thunberg, which I'm going to include in this thing, like this fantasy of never-ending growths in profit. Do you know what I mean? It's like that seems to be the thing that everyone has been driving for in small businesses. Of course, it's ridiculous. And so the only conclusion, there's not much of a conclusion because I am thinking out loud, is surely the first objective of a business is just to get to somewhere where it's all cool. Like everyone's taken care of, everyone's getting paid, everyone's doing something they enjoy. Do you know what I mean? That should be the first objective. Because the other thing that I saw was Simon Sinek, and he's talking about everyone's driving for the win all day, every day. And the comparison he makes is with the Vietnam War. Like the Americans lost because they were driving for the win, and the Vietnamese were just fighting to be in the battle every day, all day, every day, just to stay in the game, you know. So there's that idea that you should be building something continuous that feeds you continuously. That's what a business should be. So I think, based on nothing other than I've just been thinking about this for a few weeks, and I've come to the same conclusion that kind of less is going to be more. I think we're going to see some of this in 2023. I think we're going to see people talking more about actually not driving so hard, finding more satisfaction and more enjoyment and all of those things. That's kind of my prediction.
It reminds me of Jerry Seinfeld when he first came back from the successful series of Seinfeld, and his first stand-up routine where he says, "I'll tell you what I've been doing, nothing. I've been doing nothing."
Yes.
And of course, his whole show was premised on this is a show about nothing and all that. But
Yep.
he says in that routine, it's pretty hard doing nothing. Pretty soon someone invites you over and they ask you to do something. Next thing you're doing something. So he said it's taken, it's a lot of effort to do nothing. But like I think we worship the idea that what are your plans for Christmas? You can't say I'm doing nothing. But
No.
actually, our clients who we deal with and the stuff that we work with paramedics and police and so forth, the idea of doing nothing, even for a day, would be utopia for them. Like that would be a dream come true. Instead, they're triaging an unreasonable number of people with COVID. They're dealing with having to arrest someone because they went to visit their grandmother because of lockdowns. So for them to say, you know what I did? Nothing. I didn't do anything. That would be just heaven. So I think they've hit the nail on the head with the sentiment going on at the
Yes.
moment, as opposed to saying, "Well, I climbed Mount whatever, and I wrestled some alligators in Mount Etna." This idea that you have to continually be in fifth gear when
Yeah. Yeah.
actually new is really important. And the studies that we're doing on Insight, most good ideas happen in nature. Most good ideas happen when you're not thinking about the problem. So if you're trying to solve a problem, it's really important not to do anything for a bit. So our end of year email to everybody, we're encouraging people not necessarily to go out for your summer reads and all that, but actually do nothing at all for a bit, because that's when you're going to have your revelation. And your brain is not meant to be constantly stimulated. So I kind of think this is really a no-brainer, but I love that they were brave enough to say, because we know Tasmania well enough, I think our Australia particularly, to know how stunning it is, so they don't need to tell us that now.
Yes.
They're now able to tell us, just come here and do nothing, and that will be perfectly
don't even
fine.
look at the views. Don't even do
look.
that.
But don't feel bad. Just sleep. Don't feel like this fear of missing out crap. Just come here, and then your parasympathetic nervous system is going to give half a chance of recovering because you've been through some bullshit for 2 years. So I quite like that they tapped right into, and it's often the mother who's organising, not always, but it's often that person who's organising this holiday and has the pressure of making it all perfect and whatever. So, that person's going to be like, yes, let's go there and do nothing.
Yes. But the thing is that doing something is so deeply ingrained in us. Like, you've got a sense of my story. I got divorced in 2012. I carried on for a couple of years. Then I remembered you're supposed to have adventures when you're single. And then I fired all my clients, apart from those that really refused to be fired. And I went off and to do nothing in New Zealand. I was there for 6 months. I spent a couple of months in Australia. I eventually arrived here. But for those first 6 months, like getting up with nothing to do every day was really, really difficult, really difficult. Now I've kind of been on sabbatical for like 8 years. I've only done what I've needed to do for the last 8 years. But I've got a sense of what that is now. Now I've had those 8 years. I'm on a mission. I'm going to get back on it. I've got some value to add in the world, and I'm really going to drive that now. Do you know what I mean? So, and there's a friend of mine I was talking to this week, and he did well out of crypto, and he is essentially semi-retired. He's dabbling in projects, and he's busying himself with his residents association and these things. Do you know what I mean? But he was saying the same thing. Like, people respond really badly when you're not doing very much, because it is so ingrained that we have to be doing too much. And I think there's the opportunity for the world, but there's the opportunity for people who want to take it to actually be doing less, to be getting what they need, rather than getting everything they could possibly dream of, but to be getting what they need and doing much less. This was my idea. I was going to put together a thing called Spare to Share. Did I ever say this to you? This was like my idea for a charity where you actually give people the opportunity to contribute to people's lives, not just money, but time and energy. So if you could make people realize that there is spare in their lives, they don't have to drive themselves for 60 hours a week. They can do like a 4-day work week, and that would give them a whole day to invest in people's lives who aren't as well off as them. And that is the thing I think that makes people really happy, feeling like they're contributing to other people's lives in a really meaningful way. And this is good timing, because next week's Talk Marketing is with a woman who's kind of spearheaded the 4-day work week in the UK, and her sales are up, motivation's up, like staff retention's up, everything's up, and they're only working 4 times a week.
Sleep in the week, they're getting enough downtime, they're getting to do a balanced life. It's absolutely I haven't heard about how all the stuff you've just said about the stats and whatever, but there's it just makes perfect sense.
It does. It's counterintuitive, but actually, in reality, it makes perfect sense. Because the other thing that's gone on is that everyone's working now. Like it used to be, there was somebody at home looking after the kids, and there was somebody out working. So all of the home stuff kind of got done, and all the work stuff got done. But if we're both working, then when does the home stuff get done? Do you know what I mean? You do need some space to be able to do that. So the way she's working it, like half the team are in Tuesday to Friday, and the other half the team are in Monday to Thursday. And she's nailing it. I'll send you the link when that goes up on Tuesday. It's really interesting that she's doing that. Yeah. And everything's up. Everything is up. And she's just done her first year trial. I think she's part of 100 companies that they formulated to do this trial. And she's just done it, and they've just extended because they're just like, this is working so well, And it's like she says, what's interesting is that the Mondays and the Fridays, where there's half as many people, are the most productive days because there's less distraction. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's getting on. There's no meetings. There's nothing. Everyone's just free to do stuff. So, yeah, I think this is going to be a trend. I hope it's going to be a trend. because, like, if my spare to share thing is true, definitely the global population has spare to share. We don't. It's stupid that 80% of us work 60 hours a week, and the other 20% have absolutely nothing. Is ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? This could fix that situation. Good on you, Tasmania. You've almost motivated me to come back to Australia, but not quite. I still can't get over the fact that you locked up all those people.
Yeah. Well, we're working on baby steps. It is interesting because every we talked about the World Cup last time. Everyone's got their struggle. Every country has its own kind of nemesis internally that is battling to get out the other side and mature.
Yes.
So we're no exception. But I love that the idea of celebrating just breathing, because it is so undervalued, and it's critically important for functioning as a human being and finding joy. And they said, look, the pure joy of just sleeping, that is in itself an amazing holiday. What a gift. Yes. And I can see them getting on a cruise to Tasmania, and all she does is sleep on the deck. And they're like, look, Mum, a whale. And she's like fast asleep. But it's because we spent 2 years where everyone's developed conditions of anxiety because there isn't downtime, because we work and at night and all that. Your hybrid meetings, and you're over included in everything because people think, well, you don't have to commute, so I'll just invite you to everything. So there's a lot of that stuff going on. Yes, so I like the idea of don't include yourself, miss out, and enjoy the absolute pleasure of missing out. 100%. I just can't wait. That's my plan for this summer, is to miss out on as many things as I can and just, have a lovely time watching sunsets and eating food and sitting around.
100%. Yeah. I think they've nailed this. It's not without its issues. I think it would be better if she didn't look like she was actually dead for the first 8-10 seconds that we're looking at her asleep. I think it's better if they weren't suggesting that she was neglecting her children in the wilderness. And also, I think there is an issue that people might realise that they don't have to go to Tasmania to sleep. They can actually just sleep at home. Do you know what I mean? They could do that. Yes, they could have a staycation. So there's the issues. All right, good. Which brings us then to my one story, which is interesting because it's not a million miles. So basically, it's Marketing Week's year in review. I wonder if they're going to come back and say it's been a good year because of this. So 2022 marketing year in review, it's been a bad year for. From the overfocus on performance and the purpose backlash to brands inserting themselves into situations they don't belong, 2022 has been not been a good year for everyone in the marketing world. So the first thing they're saying is purpose not meeting up to brand's promise. A company which feels it has to define the purpose of Hellmann's mayonnaise has, in our view, clearly lost the plot. These were not the words of a marketing polemist, but of a leading investor. And not just any investor, Terry Smith, whose Fundsmith Equity Fund has a major stake in Hellmann's owner, Unilever. Smith's conclusion in January was part of a diatribe against Unilever executives for their ludicrous focus on brand purpose at the expense of profit. His conclusion on the merits of applying a purpose to Hellmann's, the brand has existed since 1913. So we would guess that by now consumers have figured out its purpose. Spoiler alert, salads and sandwiches. A rallying call for all those who believe that purpose is pointless and the need for it overstated. Meanwhile, so it talks about Patagonia.
Yes.
Mainly me, I've been saying this all year. It used to be that purpose was like a nice little addendum for a brand. Like, here's the value we deliver in the world, and here's how we feel about the world. And it was a nice little thing. I think the issue is that it's become the main player, and I think that's appalling. And I agree with this guy 100%. Mayonnaise doesn't have to have a purpose. Its purpose is, although it's missed the key one for me, which is potato salad. Everyone knows what the purpose of Hellmann's is. And I actually think there's a danger in these brands having purpose, like we've seen M&M's with their anxious character and doing away with the high-heeled shoes in favour of comfortable shoes. We've seen this a lot. I think it's really lazy marketing. Like, actually, the marketing should be find a product that adds value to the world and then communicate that value to the world. And then the purpose was only ever intended to be the cherry on the cake. And we care about animals. I mean, we make delicious salad toppings, and we care about animals. Do you know what I mean? Not we really care about animals, and that's it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that there's a balance between create and capture. So creating a market and capturing a market. So for me, like I think if you look, Apple for me is one of the great brands, and they invest heavily in brand marketing
Yeah.
versus capture marketing, which is where I think Hellman's rightly should be investing more heavily, because the identity of Apple is important and meaningful in that category, whereas with mayonnaise, maybe not as polarized
Yes.
in terms of needing to have its own specific brand. But then if you look at Vegemite, that is a polarizing brand, so it makes sense for me that they would split their difference and have a bit more on brand for that category. So it just depends for me. It just depends on which category you're entering as to what your split. And like the science on it says about 60% should be on capture and 40 on brand, I believe. But it really just for me, just that should shifts depending on how polarizing that or how clear the brand identity is. So you look at like red.
So what are
Was it
you
Dr.
saying? Capture and
Create?
create.
Like you're
So
creating,
create the market, capture the market. That's what you're saying. And it should be
yes, you're
60% create the
creating
market, 40% capture.
40% creating, which is brand,
Yes.
and then let's say 60% capture. So if you look at like Dr. Pepper famously was like, what's the worst that could happen? So that was a very heavy investment in create the market because we didn't need it. And so they had to create an identity and that this whole brand about how different. And Apple create a thing where, we're crazy, we're different, we're not PC, we're Mac. So they had to create the market where we didn't need Mac, right? But we did love the idea of being different and breaking the rules. And the whole Pepsi
Right.
generation thing, that was a very heavy create the demand
How have
investment
you
in.
done this? You've broken through the matrix because you're actually talking about the second thing that they're talking about rather than the first, I think.
Oh, really?
Yes. Okay, so let's go
Yeah,
to the second thing. So we're on the same
okay.
page. So the
Right.
second thing is they're saying the second issue, there's been a bad year for overinvestment in performance and promotions. So this, to use your vernacular, I think is the create. So what they're saying is all the evidence points in one direction. Businesses must invest in their brands to drive sustainable growth in the long term and resist falling into the vicious cycle of chasing short-term sales boosts with excessive performance marketing and promotions. So to use your reasoning, this would be the capture, short-term
Yes.
sales boosts and excessive performance marketing, and the create would be the branding. This year, online fashion giant ASOS confessed to getting the balance wrong. In October, the retailer reported a loss before tax of 31.9 million for 2022, down 118% versus 2021. The new CEO, Jose Antonio Ramos Calamonte, says ASOS's problem can be nailed down to insufficient brand investment over recent years, resulting in a customer acquisition slowdown. More than 80% of its marketing investment had been spent on performance, he revealed. So that supports your idea that it should be 60-40. I don't agree with this, I'll be honest with you.
Well, I think it's a sliding scale depending on the category. Like if you look at a fashion brand like ASOS, and I'm a big shopper of theirs. They over the year have got worse and worse because it's very much if you like this, you would also like that, and they've made it really easy for me to buy things. But they now look like everyone else, so that there's
Right.
not, the experience of shopping with them has lost its uniqueness to what it is shopping for, let's say, Patagonia, who is a quite different story. I feel good about buying stuff from them, and they have a very different. The real estate isn't like I'm going to show you 500 things,
Yes.
and so you're surely going to buy one of them. So, whereas ASOS, the shopping experience, um, for me, it's gotten pushy. It feels pushier than it was a year ago. So then that is because they'll be going for the volume. But for those of us who like going there because it's more of a boutique shopping experience as opposed to, a sort of a like shop till you drop
Yes.
at dinner experience. So I would agree with, I think they need to differentiate a little bit there. Because
Yeah.
the ones who do it really well, they kind of say, this is the history of this outfit, or this is, this is a little bit more than just like buy this, it's cheap, 50% off. And, that's not the experience I'm looking for. There's nothing unique about that and get that anywhere.
Yes, 100%. Okay, so I think the reason I disagree slightly is because a lot of the work I've done in my life has been with small businesses, and so I've always said and this was actually reinforced by Barnaby Winter. He defines brand as like the customer relationship. So he says before you're a customer, no one should be investing in a relationship with someone who isn't a customer or isn't going to be a customer. And actually, you should only invest in the relationship once they are a customer. That's what brand is. He says brand is the promise of a relationship. So so I think what's gone on here is not too much like have the sales, because there's return on that investment. So invest in selling stuff, because then you get a return on the investment. Do you know what I mean? And then you can start to think about cost of customer acquisition, average customer values, all these good metrics that make marketing make sense. So I would say this. So I don't think it's the two things are literally you either spend on performance or you spend on brand. I think you spend, and probably the thing is right that you're saying you invest maybe 40% on creating the market and 60% on realizing the market. But what's gone on is that these brands have got lazy and they're like, okay, we don't have to invest in the customer relationship anymore, the customer experience. We don't have to invest in that anymore because we can just pull customers out of thin air really, really easily through these performance methods. We're probably saying the same thing, but with a slightly different tone.
Or they do what Hellman's did, which is like double down on brand beyond reason.
Yes.
So
So the
I think
answer is the balance.
it is, and I think it's a sliding scale depending. Like now, there's a big difference between Coca-Cola and me and my new drink that no one's ever heard of. So if
Yes.
you're marketing something that's new in a startup company and so forth, you really want to say why are we different,
Yes.
not like why are we the same. Because if I'm the same as Coca-Cola, well, I'm going to go with Coca-Cola because I know I will not have food poisoning. With
Yes.
you're not telling me you're any different, and I've never heard of you. So that's my problem solved. So if I'm going to try and convince you to drink my new drink, it's got to have some special magical quality that Coke doesn't have.
Yes.
Different values or whatever it is, right? But so then you would spend more on brand. So I think in the beginning, you really want to get out there and be making like this is who we are, and it is a relationship thing because it's about who are you entering into a relationship with. So with Patagonia, you get a feeling this has a history. There's some values and there's some learning and reflection on what we used to do and what we're going to do now in the future, and it's all about nature. So that's their promise now, but it's really leaping ahead of where others are trying to join them and have that message as well. So for them, it is, I think they've got the balance right because it's also very easy to buy on their site. So they've got that strong brand and they're doing also the correct investment in capture. But it sounds to me like Hellman's just forgot about the fact they have to capture market as well, and really went all down with this category where we don't care enough about mayonnaise to need to have that much spent on the identity. And then, the others who, like ASOS, have neglected their identity. So we no longer have a relationship with them because they don't look different to anyone else.
Yeah, I think that the things are. I think there's different issues. I think marketers have become. Well, at the same time, they've become too lazy. They can just buy. They can do these performance marketing things. They can just buy them. So then they stop investing in the relationship or the customer experience. And then I think that maybe they've just become lazy in their mission. Their mission should be to deliver value, not communicate the fact that they really care about puppies or whatever the latest thing is that they need to be seen to be caring about. So I think those things are different. Okay, let's roll through these. Let's roll through these because there's more. The next one is brands failing to keep up with lockdown growth. While no one welcomed the pandemic, there were brands that saw a marked commercial boost during COVID lockdowns in 2020 and 2021. This year was viewed by many as the first normal post-pandemic, where people were not having to stay home at most of the time. I don't really agree with this because I don't think what they're taking into account is the fact that everyone was stuck at home with nothing to do but spend money online. That was what's going on. And then the other part of that, the second part of that shitty sandwich, was that inflation has gone completely stupid this year. So everyone's driving up prices to try and drive down, or certainly the price of credit to drive down inflation. So I think this is an effect of global economics. Do you have a view on that? We don't have to dwell on this for very long.
Yeah, no, I agree entirely with everything you're saying.
Good.
I think it's been crazy prices, energy prices as well. With there's a lot of reasons why with Ukraine and all of that, but there's some unexpected things that happen with inflation, like the cost of recruitment and so forth. So yeah, there's some interesting things that when you move one part of a system, if you're a systems thinker like we are in our company, if you do something, you don't realise the butterfly effect sometimes, and you do see these really weird kind of unexpected things suddenly, like for most of us, we didn't expect to see flowers sell out. That wouldn't be, you run out of toilet paper the first time you get a pandemic. Why would that happen? So, there's some very weird things. And if you do that, what does that do down the line? And so, yeah, I think it's something you just cannot, without fully systems thinking why and what would happen if. So I'm not surprised.
Yes. Okay, good. Next point for them, brands inserting themselves where they don't belong. The example they give here is Queen Elizabeth passing in September. It was only a matter of time before brands tried to insert themselves into the conversation, from trying to be respectful to hackneyed attempts of condolences. The moment highlighted that brands don't need to be in every conversation. I would applaud that. And let's not forget Centre Park's attempt to kick out his visitors on the day of the Queen's funeral, a decision that was ultimately reversed following outcry from the public. According to a YouGov poll, 58% of people in the UK thought brands were more motivated by PR reasons than out of a sincere desire to pay tribute to the monarch. I would say they're talking about rainbow washing, LGBTQ, all of these things.
Yes.
I think part of the skill now in 2023 is going to be knowing when to shut the up. Do you know what I mean? You don't have to comment on everything. You don't have to be involved in everything.
I mean, you do wonder, because someone starts it and a waterfall happens. So is it waterfall marketing, like as a new term? Like, because it's not like everyone wants to have an opinion, but if Pepsi has an opinion about something, then what does Coke do with that information? Because and then do they get thrown under a bus by their customers because they've been silent? But you don't win either way. So I do wonder about, the cascade effect. If someone responds, for example, the Queen's funeral, then the next one says, well, what are we going to say? We better say something too. And, next thing you know, and then at the next death, what do? You just sort of like, well, you only care about the Queen and you don't care about Charles. So you're now locked into this weird cycle of having to have an opinion about things that you should never have had opinions about. I don't know. It's a bit of a weird.
This is what I think 100% is that your role as a business is to add value in the world for your customers and extract value from them in the way of money. That's your job. Do you know what I mean? Just do that. That would be great. Like, give your customers a great experience, give them amazing value. That's your job. And I think the issue is now that marketing departments think that they have to have an opinion on everything. Everyone's got an opinion on everything and everyone wants to express that opinion on everything. And I don't think that's necessary.
If Lego think they're going to get on the front page or something because they do a Lego version of the Queen, then they'll do it, because it's like, let's get our press, we need to get something out, and the press are talking about the Queen, so we've got to do some stuff about the Queen. I wonder if that
okay, just to be clear, because we don't want to get sued by Lego or Playmobil, this was the Playmobil version of the Queen.
I do beg your pardon, not Lego.
Which I think is really a fitting tribute to 70 years of service to the country and the empire. I really do think that's exactly appropriate.
Thank you, Playmobil, for the gift of helping us at this difficult time.
Gift of that.
Yeah, but also Centre Parks, in their defence, never closed Centre Parks. They said we're going to not have staff on, only skeleton staff. So what they were never saying that we're going to kick people out. That was misquoted. They were
Okay.
just not going to have a full, like every cleaner on deck. They were going to have only emergency level of staffing.
Right. And the thing is, they
Never
made it a
going
public holiday, so that
to.
didn't have to be a thing. Do you know what I mean? They could have. The thing is that we are stuck all the time for content, so every kind of little issue is magnified. Okay, so
Yes.
this is the last thing in Marketing Weeks. I keep going the wrong way. This is the last thing in Marketing Weeks thing, which is the one that you alluded to, which is it has been an awful year for Silicon Valley. Mark Zuckerberg in particular, but Google are also facing challenges. Twitter obviously changed hands. Isn't just Twitter that struggled. In November, Meta owns both Facebook and Instagram, laid 13% of its staff, more than. So maybe this ties into the performance marketing thing. People are realizing that the performance marketing isn't necessarily delivering the performance that it should or could, in my opinion. And so these poor little social media platforms are actually, to coin a charming little South Africanism, seeing their arse. That's what I think is going on. So I think they could be delivering more value. They should be more focused on that.
So I think it was funny, not funny. Mark Zuckerberg was interviewed on Joe Rogan. You might have heard this. And he said waking up in the morning is like being punched in the stomach. So every day he wakes up in the morning feeling he's being punched in the stomach, and he's not getting much sympathy or love on the internet for that statement. But I'm sure he's right because it's not doing well,
Yes.
and it is kind of his fault. If he's not that adding value, that's all we need to do. And
Yes, yes,
it's
yes.
it's not hard to add value when you just have to say to people, "How might I add value?" and they'll tell you, and then you do that thing. Because I feel there's a
Yes.
disconnect with customers, which you've alluded to as well, where they just say, "Well, let's just create legs in the metaverse." That's what they must want. We're guessing because no one's ever said that's the most important thing right now for us. And when you change our name to Meta, really, so there's a lot of things that are a mystery to their audience who are predominantly in their 70s, may I just point out, depending on which country. But it's just bizarre to me that, it doesn't seem like a hard equation. Listen to your customers.
No.
Ask.
And
They,
I think this is going to be a major challenge for the world, like while I'm in prediction mode for the next 5-10 years, I don't know. The world needs to wake up to the fact that these techies do not know what's best for humanity. Do you know what I mean? They really don't. I think the issue is that these techies believe they know everything, and they don't know anything, and the world's allowed them to think that they know everything. Like, the reason it's hard to have sympathy for Mark Zuckerberg is because he had the best thing in the world and pocketed something like $100 billion for it. Do you know what I mean? So, and then what he's done is just neglected that thing. Like, he's basically broken it by introducing these algorithm things. It's taken 4 or 5 years for him to break it. It was so unbreakable. And now he's completely focused. He's looking in completely the wrong direction. He's gambling on what he thinks is going to be the next big thing, when the last big thing he broke, and it doesn't seem to have any interest in fixing. Do you know what I mean? So it's hard to have sympathy for them. And it's hard to have sympathy for them because I think that the value that these platforms could have delivered, they haven't got anywhere near 50 or 60% of the value they could have delivered. They are much more interested in extracting value, taking money away from their customers, and nowhere near interested in delivering enough value. Because if they were, like, Google can give you cost-effective customers all day, every day. You know, Facebook can give you cost-effective customers all day, every day. That they choose not to is the reason that they're failing. You know, because they've decided they'd rather just take all of your money and give you as little as possible. That's why they're failing. And I really think the world needs to wake up to the fact that we've given these geeks too much power. It's not like anyone ever saw a geek in the street and said, yeah, he's leading the life that we should all lead. But it's that geek in the street who's dictating the way we all have to lead our lives. I've told you before about McDonald's. You said it was my guilty secret. Did you tell me it was my guilty secret? It's not my guilty pleasure. what I realised is it's not guilty pleasure. It's like my last self-harm. Like this is the last way. Like I've given up smoking. I don't drink much. I exercise. Do you know what I mean? I do all these things that are good for me. The last thing I do that is clearly not good for me is eat breakfast at McDonald's. So they've spent 2 years teaching me how to be basically a member of staff that places their own order. In the last week, they've just completely replaced the whole customer interface on these kiosks, and I've got not a clue how they work now. For no good reason. So it's like they've completely changed it. All the categories have changed everything. So the world needs to wake up to the fact that these gigs need to be directed. These geeks should not be dictating the way we lead our lives, because I think if you put up 100 geeks, none of us would say he's the coolest guy, we should all lead our lives like him. I think we should look for the coolest people in the world and see how they're leading their lives, and that should be directing the future of digitalization. You got me on a rant. I think these people...
It is people. I want to give one quick example, which is I went to a very large takeaway chain that is known for selling chicken. So you can guess who that was. They'd run out of chicken.
Yep.
So we go through the drive-through to order this particular thing, and it was chicken tenders. There was a particular part of the chicken that was in the thing we were ordering. And chicken tenders, it turns out that's in about 5 other things, because we were saying, well, all right, if that's not available, we'll have this. And then the lady's going, oh, that's got tenders in it too, so we can't sell that to you. And so we ended up with ordering 5 things, none of which we could have, all had chicken in them. And then I said to her, it might be quicker if you tell us what you can sell us. And she said, oh, we can replace any of those things with roast chicken. I'm like, that would have been good information to start with. Because now we're just trying to look for things that, like, is there anything here with no chicken? We'll have an onion ring. So, it does come down to, if the human had understood what you want is a wrap with chicken in it, I can give you that. It just won't be this official one that you asked for, but it will be just shredded roast chicken instead. Basically going to be the same thing.
Yes.
So it comes down to listening to the customer and providing useful, adding value information, as opposed to going, no, we don't have that. No, that's got tenders in it. That's got tenders in it. That's got tenders. I'm like, this is hilarious. We've gone through a drive-through, multi-mega, multinational shop that drive it, and they sell chicken. Pretty much that's all they sell, and they've told us that they don't have chicken. Yeah, something's gone wrong there.
Something's gone wrong. The thing about this McDonald's thing that occurred to me is that they've done away with the genius of McDonald's. Like, there are 2 geniuses of McDonald's. One is that it's not actually a burger company, it's a real estate company, and they own real estate on the corner of every block in the world, supposedly. That's the first genius thing. The second genius thing is their silly question. Would you like fries with that? So literally, they take an order value of whatever it is and they add 40% every time, because once you're getting the fries, you might as well get the drink, and then your order's gone up 40%. And they've buried that by just saying, actually, it's better that they don't interact with us at all. Do you know what I mean? And that's what's gone on. The world, like, these businesses need to adjust their thinking 180% and understand that if you're in business, you're in the business of having customers profitably. And all the time you have customers profitably, you're doing well. So what they're doing is they're trying to drive product by taking out staff who are unreliable and expensive and replacing them with machines. That's not the way to do it. The way to do it is actually to add more value for your customers, make their experience better and better and better, and then you will have more and more and more customers. And that's the way I think people should be driving business. And hopefully they will wake up to this at some point, because the alternative is, I've started taking photos. Like, everyone's going up to these kiosks. They've got no idea what they want to buy, and they've got no idea where they can find. So they're literally scrolling through every category. So the time to take an order must have gone down from 45 seconds to 3.5 minutes. Like, if I drive by and there's a queue at these kiosks, I'm not even stopping, because I know I could be there 20 minutes before I even get to place my order, Whereas, so yeah. Anyway, let's not be on this.
Well, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do it.
No.
And that's the lesson for all of these platforms as well. It's saying, think before you act. And are you adding value? And the person to answer that question isn't you. it's actually your customer. And
100%.
especially those who've got the money. Like, so if you're going there daily virtually, then, I mean, absolutely your opinion is more important than the one timer. And it
Yes.
is like this is what I've heard from McDonald's executive, in their right in saying this, is that the drive through should suck like a vacuum cleaner. That's the language that they use. Like, so it's like fast. And if it's
Yes.
not fast, it's a fail. So they are all about efficiency, speed, and so forth. So the idea that that you would find a way to make it really slow and cumbersome inside, that is a very weird. I mean, unless that, yeah, I mean, there's no logic to the amount of money that you've spent building effectively giant iPads inside as like a forest you've got to navigate through to get to a human. That's my experience of these kiosks inside McDonald's.
Yes.
And it's the opposite of family friendly, which they're supposed to be. It's a very bizarre setup. But
It's
anyway,
very bizarre. I worked when I was 15 or 16. I spent that summer between school and sixth form working at McDonald's, and it was hustle. And this was when
yeah,
McDonald's was new in the UK, and we would have queues that were long. Like there would be 15 or 20 like parties in the queue, do you know what I mean? On a Saturday lunchtime, and it was insane. And we worked and we sweated, and everyone was doing the thing. Because the other thing I think that's gone on is that sense of like serving, because they've put that barrier between the customer and the staff, then they don't have that sense of urgency anymore, which was always pushed. Do you know what I
know
mean?
what their mission is to make every customer in every restaurant smile. So I think they're playing it fast and loose with the word restaurant, but to make every customer in every restaurant smile. So if they're going to smile, it's because you're hustling, because you're focused on them, because you're
Yes.
interacting and making things happen. And as opposed to like making them cry because they feel like stupid, that they don't know what they're looking at, and they've alienated you, and you're trying to give them money. I mean, all of those things that we talk about, like you're not adding value, and I'm not smiling. Fix it, McDonald's.
Fixing McDonald's. So here's the last thing. I went to McDonald's on Sunday with Devon for a breakfast because that's what we like to do on a Sunday. And we waited half an hour for our food. So I made them give me my money back and then sat there and ate their food because there's nothing. I was saying to the manager, what happened is there was a staff member and I called the staff member over. I'm like, I'd like to speak to the manager. She went to the manager. I saw her pointing at me. The manager just turned around and walked in the other way. I was livid. I go marching up. I'm like, she asked you to come speak to me, like you don't do it. And he's like, oh, it's the staff, it's the staff. And I'm like, no, it's you. You're supposed to make all of this work. But anyway, so it's not working. McDonald's definitely need to think again about these kiosks. They've given too much power to the geeks in their business. No one wants to live like a geek. Like geeks are representative of geeks only. That's 1% of the population. Them forcing the behavior of the rest of us, I think, is a really bad move for humanity, let alone businesses and marketing.
For humanity, man. Let's make
For
this
humanity,
happen.
McDonald's, fix it.
Fix it. Fix it. Let us breathe.
Yes, let us breathe. Okay, super cool. I think we got to the end. What are we going to do now? Because now, 2 weeks from now is like Boxing Day or something ridiculous. Should we do this in the first week of January? Can I put something in your diary? Or can we put it in the week between Christmas and New Year? How are you fixed?
Well, this is it. See, I'm back on the 16th.
Of
So
January?
I am going to be breathing. That's what I'm going to be doing between now and then. So
What's the world going to do without your take on the marketing news?
I know, it's just, you can make it up. You would probably could guess what I would say, but
Maybe, but I
the
won't do that.
week
That would be rude.
commencing 16th of January, that's the week that I'm back, and I could do any day but Tuesday. We've got a full workshop Tuesday, so I'm free the other days.
So is the 16th a Monday? Can we do it on that Monday? Is that cool?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah,
Can we put that in your diary right now?
Pay attention and see what's been going down.
Yes. Super cool. You're an absolute legend, Melanie Farmer. I hope you have a great Christmas. You deserve to have a great Christmas. And I'll see you on the 16th of January then.
Yay!
What's happened?
It just froze for a second. Enjoy. Have a wonderful, wonderful break if you manage to get some downtime.
Okay, I definitely
You're
will.
more balanced than me, mate, but you're a lesson for all of us. Enjoy.
Okay.